My music is awesome because I had Luke Bryan's fiddle player on it. My music is so good because I had a big name engineer mix or master it. Can we please stop with the name dropping? Who the hell cares? Hey rock stars, Matt Vanderbo here. Hey, you know what? Only one person cares about this star power that you have on your music, and that one person is you. Nobody else. Nobody cares. Well, I suppose one other person might care, and that would be the person who's on your music, who you probably paid a hefty amount of money or cut in for a percentage of your song, and now they have some type of vested interest, or they just walked away with some cash and they're skipping their way to their next job with extra money in their bank account because you were stupid enough to pay an exorbitant amount of money thinking that was going to get you ahead. It is not. So the moral of this story, if you can't tell, spoiler alert, is to stop with the name dropping and stop spending money getting these extra all-stars on your music, because that is not going to make one whit of difference when it comes to seeing success in the sync music business. When it comes to this industry, the only thing that matters is your music usable? And by usable, I mean, does your music solve one of the problems that it needs to solve in order to land a placement on TV? Those would be, does your music supply the required emotional weight that is needed for a scene? Or does it supply the energy that the scene needs? Or does it help create some type of setting and ambiance or geographical location in which the scene takes place? And if your music doesn't do one of those things, then you can just forget about placements, because those are the only things that music libraries and TV editors and music supervisors want to hear. They are not thinking to themselves,
hey, I would really like to find a piece of music by some no-name musician that Dave Grohl happened to play drums on.
or
I really need to find a piece of music that features the banjo player from Darius Rucker's band.
They're not saying that because that stuff is meaningless. So for all of your talk about
so-and-so on my music won a Grammy,
or
so-and-so on my music had a platinum record,
or
so-and-so on my music was the rhythm guitarist from some death metal band you've never heard of,
that stuff is not going to get you ahead, and you are probably spending money on that on the mistaken hopes that it will get you ahead, and what you're really doing is just flushing money down the toilet. Because in reality, these names that you have attached to your project are never even seen by the music editors as they're sitting in front of their TV show dragging music into their edit. What they see is just a list of track titles broken down into genre or emotion folders, and they see the title and they preview the song for 2 to 4 seconds, and then they determine based on those 2 to 4 seconds whether or not that track is worthy of being dragged into the project to see how it sounds under video. They are not seeing, in parentheses, featuring the Mormon Tabernacle Choir or featuring Tower of Power's horn section. They're just seeing your track title, listening to the music to determine whether or not it's a fit, and then trying it out with the video to see if it does fit. That's it. The names that you have attached to your music, regardless of who they are meaningless. And they are not even being seen by the people who are ultimately responsible with putting your music in a show. Now, I suppose there may be some music library owners out there that you may be able to snow over with your name dropping. And if that's the case, if a music library does bite on your music because you had so-and-so attached to the project, then that's more of a red flag for that music library that you should really be wary of, because if they are falling for this little bait gimmick of yours, then that really doesn't speak too highly about them as a music library. Well, if this sounds like I'm being overly harsh, well, I'm definitely being harsh. I don't know about overly harsh, but I'm going to share a personal story just to show you that I am also not exempt from this type of thinking. When I was in my 20s, this is back from 2003 to 2005, I wrote a rock opera for my graduate thesis to get a master's degree in communication, if you can believe that. Story for another day. And I used all local musicians to do this, and I recorded all the music and had it mixed at a local studio here in Boise. But I really wanted some type of star power to be attached to that because I had these grandiose ideas that after I produced 1,000 copies of this CD that I was, I don't know, going to be a millionaire. I really didn't have a game plan. I just saw fame and fortune in my future. As long as I could have some type of A-lister attached to the project. But the musicians were already done. The mixing studio was already done. That left one final area, and that was the mastering. And so I got in touch with a guy from a mastering studio down in Hollywood, I think. One of the higher profile mastering studios, as if that means anything. But I thought, ooh, this is one of the best mastering facilities, and it's in Hollywood, so it must be good. And this studio had mastered a lot of Grammy-winning projects, and so I saw all that, and I was like, well, shoot, I need them to master my project. And so I hired a guy there who was willing to do the mastering in his off hours for $1,000 flat fee. And I thought that $1,000 is going to pay huge dividends because everybody's going to buy this CD when they hear that so-and-so mastered it. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy. He actually did a phenomenal job. The music sounds really, really good. A lot of that was the result of the mixing and the engineering that happened before it went to mastering. But still, I mean, the mastering was great. Was it worth $1,000? Well, I don't know. The jury's out on that one. But I'll tell you this. I did not make my $1,000 back on the back end because turns out the mastering engineer did not equate to more sales of my album. In fact, most people outside of the business have no idea what mastering even is. And most people within the music business have no idea about this little studio out in Hollywood. And they sure as hell don't know the guy's name who did the project in his off hours. But he was able to walk away with $1,000, and here I am with all of my dreams that quickly got crushed into oblivion when I realized that his name carried absolutely no weight with consumers. Now that was over 20 years ago, but I share that story with you guys just to show that I am also not immune from this way of thinking. But please allow my mistakes from the past to help guide your future. And do not make the same mistakes that I did, because you'll find that you just spend a lot of money on stuff that really doesn't matter. And furthermore, you might start approaching music libraries or talking to people at music conferences that know better, and you start doing this name dropping thing, and it's just going to be a gigantic turnoff. And the last people you want to be turning off are music libraries, music supervisors, and music editors who are not at all impressed by that. They've seen it all before, and they recognize that all this name dropping you're doing is just an indicator of your amateur status. Don't let your amateur flag fly, even if you are an amateur. So have I made my point loud and clear? Stop with the name dropping. Get rid of this mindset that you might have where you think that by having a certain person on your music, it stands a better chance at getting placed on TV, because it doesn't. Okay, so if that slap in the face was a good enough wake-up call, we're gonna finish this video on a joke. This one courtesy of my daughter. Why did the chicken cross the playground? To get to the other slide. See ya!